Hey everybody, Logan here. Today's video is going to be a bit different, and I'm going to get it right off the bat. I got inspiration for this from a recent video that RGT85 did about his retro game collection, and it's funny, he had me thinking. I even commented it about, you know, I've slightly been doing the same thing, but I honestly feel that I'm at the point where I'm kind of done with a lot of things. Done with a lot of specific collecting. I've got a lot of the things that I actually wanted already, and I've been buying or just kind of accumulating stuff that I don't care about. I know that sounds much because it's gaming. Yeah, I care about gaming. But growing up, I was always a Nintendo kid. You could see from what's behind me. I was never big into Sega. I did have a Game Gear and a Dreamcast. Those were the only Sega consoles I ever had. Never had a Genesis, never had a Saturn until I was in my 20s. So it didn't really have much of a, I guess, of a nostalgic impact on me. So, but if you're thinking my 20s when I got it, it's been 15 years or more. But a lot of the stuff that I keep and collect has something to do with my childhood. And that's the way it is with most gamers. I started with an NES. I got my original NES. I want to say it was 88 or 89. I was 5 or 6 years old. My dad got it for me and my sister, and my mom didn't want us to have it. Blah blah blah. You guys know how that is back in the 80s. So my dad kept it at his house until we got a little older. Then we brought it to my grandparents' house, if I'm not mistaken. Nope. He always had my original NES. To be honest, I don't know what happened to it, because he did buy us a Super Nintendo in, I want to say it was 93? It was 92 or 93. Christmas of that year, and that stayed at my grandparents' house. My grandfather later on got me a Nintendo at a yard sale with a ton of great games, and then I had my NES and my Super Nintendo on a big TV in the back room. Well, big TV for those days was one of those with big backs and wooden TVs. And that's where I would play my video games. I spent a lot of my childhood at my grandparents' house. And I spent a lot of it with my grandfather, and he bought me the majority of my games. God rest his soul. Sorry, that every time it hits hard. So the majority of the stuff that I collect really has some kind of nostalgic, or it resonates with me in some kind of way, and that's usually my Nintendo stuff. The stuff that I guess from like 2000 and on, when I was in high school, it doesn't have that feeling. Xbox 360. Now PlayStation 1 does. PlayStation 2, but PlayStation 1 I still have that nostalgia for. Because it was around the time of the Nintendo 64, and I remember when I got mine, I went in to buy a Sega Saturn to the local Babbage's in the mall, and then the guy talked me into buying a PlayStation instead, but it was more expensive. He's like, but we have a used one. I was like, but it was brand new and bought. I know it sounds weird, but somebody had bought it, didn't want it, and traded it in. Perfect, mint in box. So for the same price as getting a brand new Saturn, I got a pre-owned PlayStation. You decide whether or not that was a good choice, but I do, because my first game was Marvel vs. Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, and then it got me into, because one of my best friends, like a brother to me, Anthony, got me into the Final Fantasy series. I played Final Fantasy 7, then 8, and then it was all downhill. I got 8 being my favorite, 9, and then Parasite Eves, and such great games, such fantastic games. And I was playing fighting games with my buddy Chauncey at the time. We played all the Street Fighters. We got into the WWE SmackDown and all that. Well, back then it was still WWF. And then the WCW games were terrible, but I digress. So I have a lot of nostalgia for the first PS1. The PS2, at that era, yes, I do, and I still have some of my original games, like my Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, because Tony Hawk was a great series. I try to learn to skate because of that series. Needless to say, I didn't do so. But hey, yeah, so I digress. I'm telling you stories about what I'm keeping and why things mean stuff to me. So I'm actually going to go through my collection. A lot of my Sega stuff's going to go. Not my Game Gear, and the majority of my Dreamcast stuff I'm going to keep, but not all of it. Now, I've ordered a console by the name of Polymega. I'm sure a number of you are familiar with it. If you're not, it's a system that plays a lot of retro games, and it has it's a modular system that you can actually put your games in, and it actually rips them to the internal memory, and then you never have to play them from the actual disc or cartridge, because it stores it onto the internal memory. So with that being said, I'm actually going to do that with a lot of my Sega games when that comes in. So my Genesis and my Sega CD and my Saturn will all go onto there. Now it also plays PS1, and I have NES, Super NES, Super Famicom, and there's a Nintendo 64 module, which that wasn't out when I ordered mine. It wasn't available to order. So once it comes in, this console is infamous for taking years to arrive. So my wife ordered it for me my birthday last year. Hopefully it gets here by my 40th birthday. Yes, and if you guys are wondering, I am turning 40 later this year, and that's another big reason. I've been collecting video games for, I'd say since I was 10, so around 30 years. But I'll be 40 years old. I know I don't look like it. I'll be 40 years old this year. And I want to be collecting for another 40, you know, God willing. And I don't plan on moving out of this house. This is my dream house that I'm in. It took me a long time to buy this. I've got an amazing wife, and we have everything we could ask for. And now I'm at the point where I just have too much, and I've just accumulated crap over the years. And I've gotten rid of a lot over the last, in 2022, but I still have so much. I've got a game room closet full, I have stuff in the garage, and I have stuff just stacked up behind me. And after watching RGT85's video, he made a lot of good points, and I was like, I don't need this stuff. I'm not even gonna play it. Look at all these games. I just did a video, and it really sparked when I did that 600 plus Switch game video. So I've got a lot of physical games from Nintendo. My Xbox games, I'm pretty much down to almost nothing, just because I realized I had a lot of these digitally, and I really only play Xbox games via Game Pass now. And that's, I've strayed away from Xbox, if you guys have noticed, mainly because of their lack of morals. I'm not going to get into that in this video, but they're not a company that I agree with morally, and a lot of people don't. There are people that do. Hey, if that's your deal, good on you, not on us. Sony, I like the PlayStation 5 better this generation. I like the fact that the actual current generation game is on the disc, and that's a story I've gotten into many times that I'm not going to repeat in this one. And it's just, I really prefer the DualSense controller over the current Xbox controller, which just feels like a rehash of the Xbox One controller, just with a worse D-pad. So I'm collecting for the Switch currently. I'm collecting for the PS5, and those collections are just going to grow over the next few years. With the Switch, we got, who knows, a new console coming out. If we do, then we don't know if it's going to be backwards compatible or there's going to be more games. I'm just not going to have the space. And it's time for me to just look back and say, all right, what am I ever going to play? Can I play it on a modern console? Because I don't Raspberry Pi or emulate or anything. The closest I have to emulation are these arcade 1-up cabinets. And I have 3 of those, and then this tabletop one, countertop one right here. So I really had to think to myself, and I've been doing this over the last few days. It's why you've seen no Game Room 2023 video yet, because I haven't decided what I'm going to keep and what I'm getting rid of. And I have some empty spaces on some shelves where I haven't moved things around, moved things about, and I just really haven't decided what I'm going to do until now. So I'm going to probably sell off a lot of my PS4 PS3 because those consoles really don't mean anything to me. A lot of my Sega stuff, like I said before, especially once I get the Polymega, and then I'll go through my Nintendo. The only stuff I'll probably get rid of is my import stuff, unless it's Nintendo 64, because I like Nintendo 64 and boxed Super Famicom. But otherwise, yeah, I'm probably going to get rid of a lot of the Super Famicom stuff too, to make space for whatever the new Nintendo system is. But I will be keeping my NES, Super NES, Nintendo 64, GameCube, Wii, Wii U, Switch, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, DS, 3DS, and did I say Switch? Switch. So those will be hard keeps. PlayStation 1 is definitely going to be a keep. The majority of my Dreamcast stuff, and I say majority because I've bought a number of games that were not made back when the original Dreamcast came out, some recent releases by, I think it was Josh Prod and stuff like that. Those I'm probably going to sell off. Genesis stuff, once I have it installed. A lot of the Genesis games, like the Ninja Turtle stuff and the Simpsons, you know, I have it in other forms and fashions. The Sega Genesis collection, I have the Vector Mans, the Sonics and stuff like that. Those are on Sega Genesis collections, and they're on the Switch, and they're on Switch Online. I have it physical and digital, and I'm like, do I really need to keep this stuff? I have no emotional attachment to it. Besides the Game Gear, like I said, the Game Gear was the shice. I was trying to think of something to mute the language, but I really loved my Game Gear. I played the Power Rangers games, Primal Rage, X-Men on there like there was no tomorrow. So I think I even played that maybe more than my Game Boy, but that's a close call. Well, the original Game Boy, but I played the crap out of my original Game Boy. So I think that's where I'm going with this. What I'm going to do, I'm not going to sell it online. I don't like to deal with the hassle. I don't want to sell it individually on eBay or anything like that. I have a local game store. They give very, very good prices, half or more. It just makes I guess the hassle a lot less. I don't have to deal with that. And I'm going to use it to get credit, either to get digital currency, to buy some of the new games coming out, like Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Diablo 4, stuff like that, or just invest it into some more Switch stuff, or physical copies of Star Wars and whatnot. I haven't decided on that yet, but I will once I pack everything, get everything together. And then get rid of a lot of those extra controllers I have, because you guys know I have a ton of controllers. I've actually been getting rid of a lot of them over the course of the last year, just because they've been stacking up. And it's funny because some people ask me, hey, I have a question about this controller, I have a question about this controller, and I don't answer it. And not because I'm trying to be a douche or anything, it's just because I don't have the controller anymore. I've either sold it, returned it, traded in, given it away, stuff like that. I don't think I've given it away. But yeah, so that's why. But thank you guys so much for watching this little video, because that's all I can say. I don't know if I'd call it a rant or an explanation. I think it really started with why I haven't done the 2023 Game Room Tour, and with RGT85's video, it just had me thinking. And once I do all this, I will have a 2023 Game Room Tour. I'm going to be doing this over the next week. Now, the stuff that I'm going to install in my Polymega, it's whenever that comes in, that's when that stuff's going to go. So it'll probably be in 2 lots, but that's it. So I'm not getting out of gaming. Of course not. I'm here. I have a channel. I live and eat and breathe this stuff. But, and I'm not a Nintendo YouTuber. Just because I have a lot of Nintendo stuff. You guys see, I love the other consoles as well. Especially the PS5 this generation. I love it. Not gonna lie, I love it. I've always been a bigger Xbox guy, but I really love the PlayStation 5. So go figure, huh? Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, drop it in the comment section below. Remember to watch our new podcast, Ready to Start. You can catch it pre-recorded. We're putting it out on Fridays. Once we start live streaming, it'll go up on Thursdays. We're not going to live stream until after I have my surgery. Once I have that, which will be in about a week and some change, I think it's about, that I have that. And then starting in, it's probably going to start in April when we do the live stream. But make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share this video, turn that bell on for notifications so you can find out and hear and know when I put out all these great videos and we put out more episodes of the podcast. Remember to follow the guys in the podcast as well. Click to enlarge, Ninja Turtles, and Miami Geeks. Follow them all right here on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like we always say, be legendary. Thanks again.